Hello dear students, today we're going to discuss the story of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens for chapter 2 part 1 of the Three Spirits. Now you know from the previous chapter more about Scrooge's character and his friend Marley. Do you remember why did Marley's ghost tell Scrooge that three spirits will visit him? Exactly. Because Scrooge was still alive and had a chance to save himself from facing a terrible end. Here in this chapter, when Scrooge woke up, it was very dark in the room. He looked at his watch. It was said 12 o'clock. He climbed out of bed and felt his way to the window, but there was nobody outside in the dark, foggy streets, and he realized that it must be the right time. He went back to the bed, and again he couldn't sleep. He remembered that the ghost had warned him that a spirit would visit him at 1 o'clock. He decided to stay awake until 1 o'clock had. Now it's 1 o'clock. The curtains round his bed were pulled open. Scrooge sat up in bed and stared at his ghostly visitor. Now, my dear students, can you describe the first spirit? Well, it's a strange figure, half like a child, half like an old man. Looked back at him. It had long white hair, but its skin was soft and young. It wore a short white robe covered with both summer and winter flowers. But the strangest thing about it was that from the top of its head shone a bright, clear light. The light was sometimes too bright, because under his arm it carried a hat, which looked like a large extinguisher. Now, what is meant by extinguisher? Correct. It's the torch that brings light. Do you know what was the first spirit called and why? It was called the Ghost of Christmas Past, in order to show Scrooge all the past shadows of the past events which affected him. Can you guess what is the aim of the first spirit's visit? The spirit said, "I am here to help you change your life." So what did the first spirit say? He said, "I am here to change your life." The first spirit is to help Scrooge to change his life. Now, the first spirit told him, "Watch and listen." He held Scrooge by the arm and said, "Get up and come with me." It was dark and cold outside. But did Scrooge want to go out with the first spirit? The answer is no, he didn't want to go out with the first spirit. Can you guess why? Scrooge was afraid of the first spirit, and therefore he pretended to be too ill to go out. But he didn't like to refuse, so he said nothing and got out of bed. Then together, Scrooge and the first spirit, they passed through the wall of the house, out into the darkness. What was the first spirit focusing on? He was focusing on Scrooge's past. Where did the spirit take Scrooge? He took Scrooge to the place that he was born in. Why? In order to remind him of his past life. After Scrooge saw the place that he was born in, he began to cry. Now, after Scrooge was crying, what does this show? Can you tell me? Well, it shows that Scrooge started to be emotional for a moment. He's beginning to change. He said to the first spirit, "Take me where you want, spirit." Can you imagine this? Take me where you want, spirit? He was ready to face all his past now. What did Scrooge see? Well, Scrooge recognized every field, post and tree as they walked along the road towards the little market town. He saw young schoolboys on horses and in farmers' carts laughing and wishing each other a Merry Christmas as they traveled to their homes to the Christmas holiday. All these were shadows from the past, as they cannot see them now. They cannot see the spirit, the first spirit, and they cannot see Scrooge. Now, how did Scrooge feel? Can you guess? How did Scrooge feel? Well, he was delighted and excited. Has Scrooge enjoyed Christmas since he was a child? The answer is no. He never felt the happiness of Christmas when he was a child. Let's see how. Everyone left the school except a lonely child. Can you guess who was that child? It was him, Scrooge. How Scrooge was neglected by the parents. Can you imagine? Can you tell me how was Scrooge neglected by his parents when he was a child? Scrooge was neglected by his parents since he was a child on Christmas, as they didn't pick him up from school while the other boys went home to spend it with their families. As a result, he became a lonely, miserable man who never felt the happiness of Christmas and thought it was humbug. Now, how did the first spirit help to change Scrooge? Can you guess how? Scrooge regretted not giving the little boy anything to help him feel happy at Christmas. Do you remember the boy that was singing Christmas carols at his door? He didn't give him anything to make him feel happy, and he felt sorry, and Scrooge felt sorry for not giving him anything. Did Scrooge feel happy at Christmas when he was a boy? Again, as a boy, Scrooge never felt happy at Christmas. Did the spirit achieve his aim? How do you know? Well, yes, he did achieve his aim, as it was mentioned in the story that the ghost smiled when he saw Scrooge, when he was feeling sorry for not giving the boy anything to make him feel happy at Christmas. The spirit smiled. This means that he achieved his aim. Therefore, the first spirit, achieved his aim. When Scrooge began to feel sorry for not giving the boy anything for Christmas. Now, what was the second shadow about? Do you remember? It was about Scrooge as he became a little bit older and bigger than before. He was walking up and down, looking very unhappy at the dark school. His sister came to ask him to come home back. His sister came to ask him to come home, to spend with them Christmas, as she told him, "Father is so much kinder than he used to be now." This shows how cruel his father was, and this affected his character, and it shows the kindness of his sister. Also, this explains why Scrooge didn't care about family ties. His sister married and had one child before she died. Can you guess who was his child? Yes, it's him, Fred, his nephew. Finally, this situation made Scrooge regret and feel sorry for the way he treated Fred, his nephew, when the spirit reminded him how kind his mother was.